Hey guys, welcome to our next canning session. Today we're going to do a chipotle chili, and instead of hamburger, we're going to use a chuck roast, 4 pounds of it. It sounds really good. I have yet to try it, and it's kind of a dual action chili because you can either cook it up right then and there and eat it. Or you can can it. All the ingredients are here. I would maybe add a little more liquid to it if I was going to eat it now, but that's okay. So let's run through the ingredients list real quick on it. First thing you're going to need is 4 pounds of ground chuck roast. There is our 4 pounds. Now this you'll want to dice up into about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch cubes. I mean, you want 1/2 inch cubes-ish. And that's per the Ball Blue Book. So I got this recipe off of Carol, the thrifty chic housewife, who I watch do a lot of canning on YouTube. The two main people I watch can on YouTube, I mean there's several, but the two main ones are Rose Red Homestead and Carol, and which I think I've mentioned her, and the vanilla cinnamon apples we can. So you got your chuck roast, followed by your beans. You want 3 pounds of beans, dried beans. Don't use canned beans. They're already cooked and they'll just turn to mush. So she used pinto and black beans, and I like pinto beans. I like black beans, so I thought I'd give it a try also. Right there. We'll come back to these in just 1 second. I'll tell you how to do a quick soak on them. All right, so we got that. It's salt and pepper. There are no amounts for salt and pepper because it's to taste. So salt, pepper, followed by a 1/4 cup of olive oil, which I don't have it out anymore, but I did have it in this handy dandy measuring cup that I showed you guys in the last video. I already have it in the pot over here warming up because we got to sear the steak. We got 2 cups of onions, 2 cups of bell peppers. Now, right here are my onions and bell peppers. Use any color bell pepper you want. Just red, orange, green, whatever suits your fancy, as long as it's 2 cups worth. We're going to follow that up with 6 cups of tomatoes, diced tomatoes. I don't make mine. Well, we do make our own tomato sauce, but we didn't make any diced tomatoes this year. Didn't have enough tomatoes. So go buy cans. If you buy cans of tomatoes, it's the larger cans. Hold on, I'll tell you what they are. So you always got 2 sizes of canned tomatoes. You want 2 of the 20 ounce cans. They're not expensive, but they're I think they're still under $1. But anyhow, you need 2 of them. That's 6 cups. There's 3 cups per can. And then you want adobes, or chilies and adobe sauce. It's chipotle chilies, and they're in an adobe sauce. Now, it requires 1/3 cup. All right, see, that can be spicy. If you don't like spicy, you can back it off. You can admit it. That's completely up to you. Or if you like spicy, put it all in. If 1/3 cup, if you go by the little cans of adobe chilies and sauce, or chilies and adobe sauce, it's about half that can. So it'll be 1/3 cup of that, but it adds a ton of flavor. They'll come out as whole chilies. You'll want to chop them up. 1/3 cup. We're going to follow that with 1/4 cup of lime juice. Now in canning, lime and lemon juice you usually want to use to raise the acidity level of whatever it is you're doing, but since we're going to pressure can this, it's just there for flavor. So if you don't want lime juice, I mean, I guess you don't have to put it in, but we like lime juice. We like limes. So we're going to put it in, plus it's part of the instructions. And for the most part, I always want to try to play by the rules first go around to see what we got going on. All right, so that's kind of the basic recipe that the Ball Blue Book gives you. She added a couple other things, though. So, and I'm going to add them also. It's 2 teaspoons of garlic powder and 1 tablespoon of cilantro. dried cilantro. You don't ever want to use fresh anything unless it says it in the directions. But any dried spice is okay. So I've already got it mixed in this jar, or this little cup. So garlic powder and cilantro. And then she put in 2 teaspoons of Mexican oregano. I still haven't gotten mine yet. Since I had to order it online, but I did read online that if you take the Italian oregano and mix it with some coriander seed, it can recreate about the same flavor. So I'm going to give it a shot. So I've got Italian oregano and some coriander seed in there. We'll see how it works out. And that's pretty much it. So let me move the camera and, the beans. So to quick soak the beans, well, if you read the Ball Blue Book, it's going to tell you to soak your beans in water for 12 hours, which takes forever. I mean, unless you got 12 hours. If you're planning it for like the next day and you can plan it far ahead, cool, soak them for 12 hours. The quick soak method, though, which is what I did, I mean, it still isn't quick, but it's quicker than 12 hours. In this case, you take your 3 pounds of beans, and these are pinto and black beans. You want to sort through them, make sure there's no rocks in your beans, no broken beans, things like that. It doesn't take very long, and it's well worth the extra step. You're going to put them in a pot. You're going to fill it with water so it's about 2 inches above the beans. You're going to turn your stovetop on, bring it to a boil. As soon as it starts boiling, not hard boil, but just a normal average boil like you would do spaghetti noodles in, you are going to let it boil for 2 minutes, shut it off, put your lid on it, or if you already have your lid on it, leave your lid on it, and let it sit for 30 minutes. Then you're going to take the beans and the water, drain the beans, get all that first round of nasty water off, put them back in your pot, add 6 cups of water to it. So you're essentially doing 2 cups per pound. You're going to put them back on the stove. You're going to turn it back on, and you're going to bring it to a simmer, which is a light boil, if you don't know, because I didn't know in the beginning. And you're going to let that lightly simmer for 40 minutes. Once you're done, drain them. You're done with them. Now, there's some variations depending on the type of beans, but for pinto beans and black beans, that seems to be kind of the rule. Navy beans are a little different, but not a whole lot. That's a pretty good rule of thumb at any rate. All right, so let me move the camera, and I'll show you what I'm about to do with meat, and we'll take it from there. All right? Hold on one moment. All right, so our next step is to go ahead and we're just going to lightly brown the meat. You don't want to cook it all the way through. And I put the 1/4 cup of oil in here. And then I'm not going to load all this meat in here at once. I want it to have space to do its thing. When you chop up your meat, you want to make sure you get off as much of the fat as you can. Now, like the marbling fat's okay, but you don't want all the excess fat on there. Fat is bad, and don't use any more than this 1/4 cup of oil. This oil is going to pull duty, and after I get this meat done, we're going to do up the onions. All right, I'm going to go ahead, get this slightly brown. Like I said, you don't want it to cook all the way through, kind of like a rare if you were cooking a steak. And then, as you do it in small batches, just go ahead and put it in a bowl to the side until you get it all done. All right? I will see you here in just a few minutes, and I'll show you what the meat looks like. Okay? All right, so I got the meat done. This is about what you're looking for right here. You know, it's hard to tear apart because it's still pink in the center. Ooh, it's also really hot. But it's still pink in the center. All I did was just brown the outside of it. Got all the meat done. So the next thing we're going to do is with the oil and all the residuals from the meat that are in there, grease and whatnot, we're going to leave that in there, and we're going to put our onions and peppers in there. and we're going to let these soften. And it should take right around 5 minutes, and you'll know. I mean, you should be able to take your wooden spoon, if that's what you're using, or whatever utensil you're using to kind of mix with, and you should be able to kind of press through them, if not cut them, and cut a piece in half. That's how you'll know they're pretty soft. Though, like I said, the onions will start to go a little translucent, but you want to go ahead and do this for 5 minutes, 5-ish minutes. Like I said, until they're soft. I mean, depending on the heat you have it on, it may take a little longer than that. And then after these are done, it gets kind of fast-paced after that. We're going to mix everything together, and we'll let it simmer for 10 minutes. And while it's simmering, we'll put our canning pot on and start getting it up to temperature and take it from there. All right? See you in a split second. All right? All right, so we got these softened, and it didn't take but about 5 minutes. All right, so if you can see, they're translucent. There we go. They're translucent. The onions they're starting to get a little clear. Steaming, they're soft. That's very hot. So, we got that done. Next thing we're going to do is just pretty much dump all our ingredients in. Well, and there's not really a particular order for this at all. You're going to put your meat in, including the juices that might be in the bottom of the bowl. Don't worry about straining those out. We'll get the meat in. Then we're going to do our tomato sauce in. While I was getting the sauteing those, softening up those onions and peppers, I went ahead and got the stock pot on, the pressure canner on, got it filled up with water. Now, if you own a Presto canner like this, the average rule of thumb, I believe it even says this in the instructions, when you're pressure canning, it's 3 inches of water. And I'll show you something that's really kind of cool here in a second. I'm going to add my cilantro and my garlic powder. I'm going to add my chipotle chilies and adobe sauce. Not quite 1/3 of a cup. Here's the cool thing about chipotles and adobe sauce. So I said that you're going to use about half the can. Don't throw the other half of the can away. Put it in the ziploc freezer bag and put it in your freezer. It'll last for months. And then that way, because I mean, it's not something you may not use a lot all the time, ever, or at least hardly ever. And if that's the case, you freeze it, it'll always be there, it won't go bad. You stick it in your fridge. I mean, it lasts a while in the fridge, but not very long. All right, so we got all our dry spices in there. Got your garlic powder, your cilantro, your Mexican oregano if you've got it. If not, like I said, just put a little coriander in with your Italian oregano. We'll find out for sure if that works. Like I said, I read it. Doesn't mean it's true. Not everything online is true, but we'll see. We're going to add our lime juice in there. And then we're going to put our beans in here. And then we will take your spoon, your spatula, whatever you got handy that you've been using. And we're going to mix this all together. So after we get it all mixed together, I mean, you're still going to want to stir it on occasion, but we got to let it simmer once we got to get it up to a simmer, and then let it go for about 10 minutes. And then after that, we can start canning. But we will get it all stirred up. We got it all stirred up, and then we're going to put our lid on it. You'll find the lid is quite helpful when you're trying to get anything to simmer or boil. It helps to do it quicker and stay more consistent. All right, so we got the lid on it. I'm going to bring it up to a simmer, and we'll let it simmer for 10 minutes, but I did want to show you something really quick. Before while this is simmering, if I can find it, and I just had it. Did you see where I put that stick? I just made a stick, or I had the measuring stick.
It's right there.
All right, sorry about that. All right, so I had done it and I just had it. That's the worst part. All right, so to ensure that you've got 3 inches of water in this pot, and also when you're canning or putting stuff in jars, depending on what you're doing, it's anywhere from 1 inch from the top to 1/4 inch from the top, depending. Say you lost the plastic one that comes in your kit, or you just don't have one, period. You can make one. All you need is a chopstick or a wooden skewer. We've been doing this for quite a while. And this will also double for an air remover thingy for the jars. But on this stick, I just simply marked 3 inches from the top down. And that's how I know when I have the right amount of water on it. I took a measuring tape, held it here, marked 3 inches. And then on this end, I got 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, inch. That way I can just stick this on the top of the jar to see where I'm at. Now, after time, you kind of know where 1 inch, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, inches. And even on your jar, on your canners, if you can see inside mine, there's kind of a ring where the water's been. At least a little discoloration, which is okay. It's just high temperature aluminum water versus no water. But if that helps, I highly recommend it. I know we had a plastic thingy at one time, and many children ago it disappeared. So, all right, so we're going to let this simmer for 10 minutes. Once it simmers, we can start canning. All right, I'll see you back here in just a quick second. All right, guys, we let it boil, let it simmer for 10 minutes. Here, I'll show you what it looks like real quick. We'll bring you in for a Mr. DeVille close-up. And there we are right there. Don't know how good that picture is going to be, but that's what we're looking at right there. That is a Chipotle style chili. So I did try it. Tasted it for salt and pepper, because I don't know if you noticed or not, but I did not put any salt or pepper in it when I dumped everything in. That's because I wanted everything else to heat up first, let those flavors blend while it simmered for 10 minutes. And then that way, I had a general idea where I was headed. If I have the opportunity, I'll always put salt and pepper in last. I know how salt tastes. I know how pepper tastes. And if I can get a good handle on what flavors are there beforehand, I most certainly will. Now, sometimes you'll add salt. It'll bring out flavors of things, especially kosher salt. Like I said in my other video, I almost solely use kosher salt when I do salt my dishes. So I got salt and pepper in there to taste. It's really good, by the way. Don't let the chunkiness fool you. That base is amazing. Now, you're going to say, yeah, but I don't want chunky steak chili. And you're right. Nobody wants chunky steak chili. Well, I mean, you might, which would be good. But here's what's cool. The reason why we did not cook that meat all the way through is, A, it cooked further when we did it for 10 minutes. But then it's about to sit in that container right there for 90 minutes at 245 degrees and cook. So it will cook all the way through. And every protein we've cooked so far, or canned so far, chicken, hamburger, steak, and pork has just fallen apart when you open it. It becomes shreddable. It's so tender, it just falls apart. So I know this will be more like a shredded steak chili than it will be a cube steak chili. All right, so we added salt and pepper to it. I actually put some Red River Ranch in mine, but I can tell you what it tastes like without it also. It tastes really good. We really like Red River Ranch. Once again, dry spices. Put as much as you want in. They don't affect anything when it comes to safety of canning it and letting it sit on your shelf for a year. It won't affect the pH. All right? Got the water on and boiling. Well, it's not boiling, but it's hot. So everything's hot. This is hot, or hot packing is what this is called, remember? Hot, hot. My jars are sitting down here in the water. right there. And I don't know if you can see them or not because they're clear, the water's clear, but they are there. And my lids are sitting over here on the kitchen table. They are dried, washed. Today I'm using ball lids because I actually found some. I did find with the other lids I had bought off of Amazon, you do need to heat them. So if you heat small saucepan, water, simmering for, put the water in it, put your lids in it, not necessarily your rings, but at least your lids, and bring it up to a boil, turn it down, and just let it simmer. All right, and you can let them simmer for 15, 20 minutes. That way it sets that silicone ring around it. It's food grade silicone. That's what holds it in tight. But it sets that ring, and then that way it will stick and ensure a good seal. So I know that's what I was doing wrong, and they're a good backup lid to have. But if I can find the ball rings at a reasonable price, that's been the key lately. Finding them at a reasonable price. Something that's normally $3 or $4, people are wanting like $15 for online. Which price gouging is horrible. It's a horrible thing. I would much rather do it the old-fashioned way. So, according to the USDA, ball canning, and the National Center for Food Preservation, you no longer have to sterilize your jars, or your lids, or your rings. You simply wash them, especially if they're brand new. Wash them to get the oil off of them from where they were manufactured. And in your rings and lids, let them air dry. Your jars, wash them really good, hot soapy water, rinse them, and then when the time comes, hot water. That is straight hot water in there. So those jars are hot. So we're running, matter of fact, we temp the water. We're at 119 degrees in here, which is high enough that we won't break the glass by putting 170, 180 degree salt stew in there, chili in there, or the around 180 degree water that's in the pot. You want that balance. Like I said before, the reason for that is because I think it's to help get your food up there quick enough to 240 degrees. And, excuse me while I get something to drink real quick. And get it up there as quick as you can to 240 degrees. That way it will stay at that temperature longer to ensure we don't have any botulism or any other nasty germs. There's a lot out there that can make you sick doing this if you don't get it up to the right temperature. But botulism can make you sick or kill you. And the last thing you want to do is put all this hard work into something that's going to make you dead. Don't want that. All right, so I've done enough talking. I got my water. Let's move on with canning this stuff. All right. So, according to the recipe that I got from Carol and also from the Blue Ball Book, you want to take this up to an inch, which, remember, an inch on at least ball jars is the bottom of this ring right here. You'll see you got the screw part, and then you got this ring part that's solid all the way around. That is the inch line. When in doubt, use your stick. If you're new, use your stick till you get a good feel for, what you got. If you don't want to spend $8, $9 on a plastic stick, make your own. You can use an old chopstick for that matter. It won't hurt anything. So we're gonna put these in here now. This can, okay, so if you watch Carol does this, she does this in pints. But she even says on her video for it that you can do it in pints or quarts. The only difference you're going to find is doing it in quarts, you have to pressure can it longer. So if you are doing this in pints, do it for, you're going to can it for 75 minutes or 115, an hour and 15 minutes or 75 minutes. If you're going to do this in quarts like we're doing, because we're a big family, you're going to do this for 90 minutes. That's the variant. So we've got it up to an inch. That's really hot, so I'm not going to grab that with my bare hands. Grab a towel. Now I'll show you the inch line right quick. All right, see how I got it up there to that line? we're in good shape. So, next thing I want to do, I got it up to that inch line, is take, in this case, I won't use a metal knife this time, even though that's what I usually use. I will show you the poker. We're going to take the poker, we're going to poke it in there, make sure there's not any air bubbles. Anytime you make a chunky product, you just want to double check for air bubbles. Now, the chances of there being air bubbles in this soup or in this chili, pretty slim. I'll be honest with you. But there could be. There could be some trapped in there. And if it lowers a little bit when you let the air out, just do like I just did and dump a little on top of it. So, the next thing I want to do is grab a paper towel. Now that I've got it filled up to my inch mark. Now, all my other videos I used water. This time I've started using vinegar. And here's why. I noticed on a couple jars of salsa I had on the outside there was a mineral haze on it. What that's from is our water has some minerals in it. Well, when you pressure can, those minerals can attach to the glass. They come off, but they don't look nice and they're a pain in the butt to get off. So the simple solution to that is vinegar, white vinegar. All right. It also works a little better at getting the rims cleaned on your jars. So I just went ahead and I poured me about 2 tablespoons worth of vinegar in there, maybe 3. And I'm going to use that vinegar to wipe the jars with. Make sure you're using a clean paper towel. And make sure it's the only thing you do with that paper towel. Don't accidentally wipe up something or it can just contaminate everything. All right, so we got the vinegar wiped down on the ring there. I'm going to go off camera, as you probably just noticed, and because that's where my lids and rings are. I'm going to take a ring and I'm going to center it. And you'll feel when it's centered, but you want it centered. You're going to put your ring, you got your lid on there and it's centered. You're going to put your ring on, and remember, finger tight. And does anybody know what finger tight is? Good. I'm glad you know. But for those of you who don't know, here's finger tight. Fingers, not the entire palm. Fingers on the lid. Turn it till it won't turn anymore and stop. Don't force it. Don't don't hammer it on there. What happens is you hammer that on there. Pressure starts to build up in here because it's at 240 degrees. And all of a sudden, it forces this up, or it won't force it up. You don't get all the air out of it, and bam, it doesn't seal. Or it blows the lid off. Or you blow the lid off. I mean, that's pretty much it. You're going to blow the lid off, or it's not going to seal properly, and it's not going to seal properly. You're going to have oxygen in there, and then what happens? Boom, botulism. But I'm glad you back in the back knew what I was talking about. So, we got that done, all right? Very last step, we're going to stick it in here. And now I'm going to, like we like to say at work, wash, rinse, repeat. I got, if I did this right, I should have 5 quarts of chili in here. I've got 1 quart down, 4 quart jars left in here, and about 4 quarts worth of chili. This is a 6-quart pot, and it was about 5 quarts full. So, excuse me. I'm gonna go ahead and get this finished up, and then we'll talk about the pressure canner. All right, what we're gonna do from there. I'll see you here in just 1 split second. Okay, so I ended up because I'm amazing. Just kidding. I'm also full of self-confidence, but I did get 5 quarts out of that with like maybe 2 spoonfuls left, which I'll probably eat as soon as I'm done filming this portion, which will be cool. All right, so I got all 5 quarts in the jar, or in the canner. Here's what's left of my vinegar. Like I said, I'm putting that in the water. What that'll do is it'll help keep the minerals off the glass. That way. Now, like I said, not that you can't rub it off, but man, it really is kind of a challenge to get that off of there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lid on here. All right, now there's 2 arrows, one on the canner, one right here on the lid. Reflection's horrible from the light. There you are. All right, right there. So what you want to do to get this lid to lock in place, well, first thing you want to do is check that gasket. Make sure there's no tears, no dry rot, no missing parts. Without it, you don't have pressure. So that's kind of important when you pressure can. You always want to look at your equipment. Like I said, depending on the piece of equipment you got or who manufactured it, read their instructions and it'll take it from there. So you line the arrow up with the arrow that's on this handle right here, and then you're going to take it, turn it till it stops, because it'll stop. All right, so we're locked on. Now, I'm going to turn this up. The reason why I'm doing it on this side is it actually has a bigger, it's the biggest piece. I usually do over here, but we still have to cook supper, and this is like our main burner. It's naturally the easiest one to use. Plus, like I said, this has a bigger element, so it fits this quart, this big 23 quart pot better. So what I'm going to do is this. All right, so I'll let this go. Eventually, the water that's in here will start heating up. It'll start to steam. It'll start pushing steam up and out this vent hole right here. Once it starts venting out and there's any kind of pressure in there at all, there's a little lock right here. It will lock. It'll pop up, and that is one of 2 safety features. This locks it to where you can't open the lid while it's under pressure. Then there's a plastic thingy back here that's a blowout plug that if it gets too much pressure in it, instead of blowing up the canner, it blows out that plug and releases the pressure, saves you a lot of headache and hassle. Key to that is not to let it get that far. So this will start steaming. It'll push the air out. This pops up. As soon as this safety lock pops up, I'm going to wait. I'm going to start counting on the clock 10 minutes. All right. As soon as 10 minutes is up, I'm going to put this gauge, this weight right here, on top of the vent hole. And then all of a sudden, this gauge right here is going to come to life. And I'm going to take it here. Let me get you in a little closer real quick, so hopefully you can see it. There we go. This little gauge here is going to come to life, and it's going to go from 0 around to 11 up here at the top. So, but before it gets there, right now I'm on 6 on my dial, which is the highest as this element goes. When it gets to about 5, I will turn it down to about 4 on my element, or medium-ish, medium low. And then as it gets to about 7 or 8, right in there, I'll turn it down to around 3 on the gauge. And then as it gets close, as it hits 11, and I can control it at 11, it doesn't go under. It's okay if it goes up to 12, even 12 and a half. I can start my timer. If it goes above 11, I'm fine. I just have to try to keep it to not go below 11. I'll just come over here and turn the heat down just a little bit. If it goes below 11, though, and my timer is started, guess what happens? I got to bring it all the way back up to 11, and I got to start my timer over. So, baby steps. You know, once it gets up to 5 on the gauge, I go down to 4 on the knob. Once it gets to 8, I go to 3. Once it's at 3, I just keep an eye on it and let it get up to 11. Once it's at 11, I start my timer. These are quart jars. We're going to do them for 90 minutes, you know, or an hour and a half. If it drops below 11 at any time in that, I got to stop my timer, get it back up to 11 by turning this up a little bit at a time, and then restart my timer for another 90 minutes. Even if you are at 75 minutes and it drops below 11, restart your timer. It means that you could run into some mushy beans, but mushy beans are better than dead. So, we don't want botulism. That's our end game. No botulism. Serious stuff. Matter of fact, if you go to Rose Red Homestead, one of the canning ladies I follow, and we'll throw a link down in the description below. By we, I mean my producer, because she just is. She guys wants you to have easy access. And I want you to have easy access too to all of this. But Rose Red Homestead, she is a college professor who deals in science, and she has all kinds of things on there. Someday we're gonna sit down and we're gonna do a video that talks about some of the science behind it, but she's way more detailed than I could ever hope to be. She's got graphs and charts, and she's done complete studies on this stuff. But that's how serious botulism is, because you can't smell it, you can't taste it, you can't see it. It's just there, and the only way you're gonna know you have it is if you get it and you're really, really sick, or in the hospital, or dead. So we don't want to see anybody dead. Now, on that same note, if you follow the steps, there's nil to no chance that that'll happen. And Samantha, please, don't need to bark because Ray's barking. Thank you. But if you follow the steps and procedures, the chances are slim. But I still want to stress the importance, because I don't want to see anybody get hurt or sick. So when we're pressure canning, not so much a water bath, but pressure canning, don't go to the store after we start this process. Even when you get the gauge balanced at 11, don't go to the store. Don't go take a nap. Don't go in there and start watching a movie and forget about it. This gauge, this setup for all its consistency, can be very inconsistent. I've seen this thing go 20-25 minutes dead on 11 and not move, and then all of a sudden it's at 15. And you'll know, because that weight that we'll put on there is going to start rattling like there's no tomorrow, and it'll start screaming at you. You'll know. Or it may drop, and then you may have to start all over. So what I do is, the hour and a half this thing goes, the 90-minute it goes, I sit literally in the same chair that I talk to you on Tuesdays on, watch the news or whatever on my laptop, and every 3 minutes I turn around and I look at that gauge to see where it's at. I don't ever want to be not around. It doesn't take long for things to go wrong, so you want to keep that in mind. And I think that's it. Heats up, pops up, 10 minutes. Put the gauge on, put the weight on, and then gauge starts to go up. As it goes up, you're turning this knob to the heat to go down. 90 minutes. So, that being said, I think I've lectured enough on the importance of doing it right and botulism. So I will see you as soon as this gets done with this 90 minutes, and we'll take it from there. All right, see you here in just a few. Okay, so here's a quick life lesson in what to do when you're not paying attention. Like I said earlier, see how that is on 15 and it should be on 11, because I wasn't paying attention and it got away from me, and it didn't take but a minute. 1 minute it was at 8, next minute it was at 13, now all of a sudden it's approaching 15. So what did I do? Alright, first I heard it before I saw it. See how that's jiggling? Should not be jiggling. So, I didn't just run over there real quick and turn the range off, I turned it down. Alright, and what I'm going to let it do is let it slowly work its way down from 15 back down to about 11 and a half, and then I'll start messing with the heat. Little baby steps. Alright, so like right here, alright, oh, that's weird. I'm on 2 at the moment. Alright, like I said, I don't normally use this side, so I don't know exactly how it's going to react. But I know on the other side, it's usually about 3. So I've got it just right around 2, maybe a little above 2. And I'll wait till this gets down near 11, 12. So when it's just past that big mark, you got the 10 with the big dot. You got the big dot next to it's 11. Little dot's 12, going to the right. So I'll wait till it gets between 10 and 11, and I'll see what it does after that. If it stays there, I'll leave it alone. If it starts to go down to 11, I'll bump it up just a hair, and I mean just a hair. All right, but I wanted to show you that real quick. When I come back, we'll look at what's going on at the end process. So we'll talk about letting it sit for 5 minutes after we turn everything off, and then letting it set for, maybe an additional 5-10 minutes after we take the lid off. All right, well, real quick, see how that's up right there? That's how I know. As soon as this button pops up, I let the steam roll out of there for 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes is up, I put that cap on. Then you got to keep an eye on it. All right, I'll see you here in just a second. All right, guys, last phase of the canning process. Now, as you saw a minute or so ago, my gauge went up to 15. It was jiggling. The weight gauge was jiggling. And so what I did was bring it back down slow. We've water bathed on this side, but never pressure canned. I learned that because of the size of this heating element, it heats. Right? It's no joke. I actually ended up having to keep it on almost low in order to keep it. I never did get it down to 11. It stayed right around 12, 12 and a half, which is okay. When things happen like that, like I said, stay calm, turn it down. It will work its way back down. Didn't work its way all the way back down, and I knew that there was a potential for a little bit of siphoning, and there was. Matter of fact, here, we'll show you what happened. What the siphoning looked like. Like I said, it was minimal. It was minimal enough. Oh, did you hear that pop? That was a lid popping. So, but if you look down in there, the water isn't completely clear anymore. It's got a little tint to it. That was a little bit of siphoning. That was very little siphoning. I'll live with that. So you're going to get siphoning on occasion. That's kind of the fact of life. All right, so what we did was it ran its full hour and 30 minutes, or 90 minutes. When the timer went off from that hour and 30 minutes, I shut the heat completely off, and I left it sit there. Just sit there. After you turn your timer off and turn the heat off, then if there's something you need to go do it. Because it literally took about 35, 40 minutes for it to depressurize. And then afterwards, once you turn it off, you know that it's completely out of pressure when this little pin right here drops down. Then you know there's no pressure in it. But don't take the lid off right away. Wait 5 minutes. Okay? Wait 5 minutes, and then after that 5 minutes is up, so that you can take your weighted gauge off, and you can take your lid off. Another way you can tell if you've got siphoning is you'll smell it. You'll smell whatever it is that you're cooking. Man, those things are really popping. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but I had one pop before I took the lid off, and then we've just had 2 more pop on top of that, and there were only 5 in there. So you wait 5 minutes, and then you can take the lid off. And then they've been sitting there probably about 5-10 more minutes since I took the lid off. That way, they can settle a little bit. These things were boiling like a banshee, and I'll be the first to tell you that makes me nervous. Pulling jars out like that, and it should. You should always be a little nervous, a little bit of nerve, and a little bit of scared. Is good for you. That means you'll pay attention, and paying attention is the important part. So, to review like we do with every video, we let it sit 5 minutes. We took the lid off. Let them sit another 5 or 10 minutes. They're not going anywhere. When you go to pull them out, use canning tongs. Some people will use just regular old tongs. Bad idea. They can slip. If your canning tongs look like this and not like this, see how there's no gripper on it? no good. Cans can slip. This stuff is 200 plus degrees. You won't just get a little burn, and it's under pressure. Make sure you got the grip. When you grab the jar, like I've said before, you grab that jar by the jar, not by the lid. When you grab it by the lid, you can get siphoning. It can cause it to depressurize. It can cause 240 degrees worth of everything to go over top of you. When you lift it out, do not tip it. Yeah, there's going to be water on top of it, and that's okay. But right there's what we come out with. That is our chili. Beans, meat, and I don't know if you can see it in there or not, but that's the meat that's just falling apart. It's not the beans, that's the meat. So, like I said, meat just falls apart when you can't. Not all meat. We've got chicken here. I'll show you the chicken. Give me 1 second. It was chicken. We did what was called cold pack, and you literally put it in the jar with just raw chicken and you boil it. But meat can fall apart or can look like this. I guarantee you, we put this in anything, chicken noodle soup, whatever, and we mess with it just a little bit. Well, I mean more than a little bit, but you sit there and poke at it, it'll fall apart. But I put it in Santa Fe chicken and it doesn't fall apart. You just got to be kind of gentle with it. But
It falls apart when it's cold, too.
But I'm telling you, you want a tender, good chicken. That's the way to go. I'm sure this steak will be the same way. We have yet to have any kind of protein that's given us problems along the way. So, now, other than just standard chili to eat with just toppings on it, whether it be jalapenos, cheese, whatever, you can also, with as thick as it is, because it is thick, you can put it on nachos, throw some cheese over that, use it as a nacho. I mean, it is chipotle, so it'll have a nice kick to it. Have some ideas to do things with. Yeah, you can do nachos, you can make it as a chili, put it over French fries. You know, you don't have to necessarily use it as a main meal. Okay, so I'll finish pulling these out. I know this video has been long, but I want to make sure I touch base on everything, especially the safety stuff, because that's important. With the jars, just like all the other jars, we're going to let them sit and cool for 12 to 24 hours. Don't touch them, don't move them, don't do nothing. You know, like now it's late enough that we'll probably get ready to go to bed after I get done pulling these out. And then in the morning when I get up, after I feed the farm and take the kids to school, and before I go to work, I'll take the lids off. I'll make sure that you can hold them. You know, now when you want to check them in the morning, you know, and you want to make sure they're sealed, you should be able to grab this by the lid. See, I have the lid, not the jar. And you should be able to hold it like that without the lid coming off. That's how you know you got a good seal on it. You'll have audible signs shortly after you pull them out. They'll ping. And then you should be able to pick them up by the lid. Alright, well, I want to get the rest of these out, but I'll let you guys go. I just wanted you to see that. Oh yeah, before I forget, separate 12 to 24 hours. When they're done, label what they are, the date you made them, take the rings off of them. You don't want to leave the rings on them. Those are just simply there to hold the lids on while you cook them. And then give them a good wipe down with some hot soapy water. Alright, then put them on your shelf. Alright, I love you guys. Tell somebody else you love them, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.